Hello, you're watching Rappler. My name is Beko Pin, and we are joined today by the newly minted, newly appointed, hasn't even been a week pala, cumulatively. He's the newly appointed Secretary of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, Secretary Rex Gatchalian. The former legislator, former mayor, has been hitting the ground running, sir, I think. And in the past, akala ko 2 weeks, 1 week.
Wala pa. 1 week and 2 days.
Yeah. So,
working days, ha?
Yeah.
But weekends are now working days also.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll still have a lot to talk about today. Thank you for joining us. I know it's been a difficult and action-packed days, weeks in the...
It's been a whirlwind since the appointment.
Yeah.
So parang so many things have been happening. Yeah.
So can you walk us through like what led you to discern and accept the offer to head the department?
I've always said to myself, no, and every Filipino I'm sure harbors the same feelings, to work for the country on a larger scale is an opportunity and a privilege and an honor that's not accorded to everyone.
Yeah.
When you're called to do that, you cannot say no.
Yeah.
2, I rose from the ranks of the local government unit. All the mayors out there and all the congressmen out there know this. Diba? Meron kang mga epiphany moments na sasabihin mo sarili mo, pag ako nandun, aayusin ko ito. Pag given a chance, this is what I will do.
Yeah.
And more so, all of us have proud stories in our LGUs. There are glimmers of progressiveness everywhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're just not given credit.
Yeah.
There are best practices out there, and ang point ko doon is, you would always want to tell yourself na pag ako nabigyan ng pagkakataon, you'd always daydream those dreams when you're in local chief executive, lalo na you'll say, I'll scale this up.
Yeah.
So, when the offer came, of course, the answer were those two, yes and yes. Because yes, it's working for the Republic, and yes, it's working for scaling up things from the local government. They always say na the forefront of innovations are the local government units because they're more progressive, they're more responsive. Then maybe I should walk the walk and bring that type of responsiveness here.
Yeah. So yung converge nun, siguro the clogging up is in national, but we'll talk about that later. Siguro, sir, let's go back to 2022. You worked very closely in the Uniteam campaign, specifically with now Vice President Sara Duterte. But so far, how is it working with President Marcos?
I've only sat with the president once kasi diba he left for Japan na. But they told me here, and I can feel it naman, he gives his managers leeway to do things. Yes, he has meaning direct marching orders, but it's for you to get your point A to Z.
Yeah.
Case in point, he said he wants our relief response to even be more responsive.
Okay.
So that's why we came to the idea of setting up a logistic hub and spoke, superior supply chain logistic network for relief operations. So he won't tell you naman how to get there. Basta yun ang gusto niya. And it empowers managers like myself to fill in the blanks with creativeness and innovation, diba? And that's the type of boss that I want to work for because he's not breathing down your neck, but he will obviously collect sooner or later, so I have to hit the ground running and fill in the blanks.
Yeah. The deliverables are clear, pero hindi siya nangingialam how you actually get to that.
Because I think there are so many departments in the country, there are so many pressing issues in the country that he has to attend to, and that's why we're here to fill in the blanks for him.
Yeah. Sir, when I spoke to the previous secretary, he said one of the things that really took him aback was the sheer amount of red tape in an agency like the DSWD. How are you... do you share the same observations, and how are you going to solve this?
Personal anecdote and what I've observed. See, in Valenzuela, we're known for the fastest business permit in the country, the ease of doing business. It's called Paspas Permit. You go online right now, you can get your business permit in 5 seconds. So, on my way out as mayor, inabutan lang ng COVID, we signed up an agreement with the New Zealand government on ease of social welfare. What happened was they came to us and they said, we want to help you with your business permits. When we saw our system, they said, you don't need help. Okay na yan eh. So what else do you want? I said, I want to convert the same with ease of doing social business, social welfare. And we know na the word digitalization, automation is a byword. Pero that's the end of 2 steps. First, streamlining. Redundant policies, redundant steps, redundant requirements. You do away with that. And I would like to thank si Secretary Tulfo for leading the way in this department. They explained to me na yung mga number of requirements have been lessened to 2 na lang. The number of steps have been reduced. So that heavy lifting is done or partially done. We just have to tweak it a little kung kailangan. 2, obviously fixing the database kasi there's no point in automating if there's no parang foundation to stand on. So that is another discussion that you want to take up with me probably later on listahanan and everything. And then third is the easiest part. There are tons and tons of e-government solution providers out there. We just have to make sure that we choose the right one and they pass the rigidity of the procurement process. So the streamlining of that is the workflow here. But obviously, there are much more things to streamline for specific programs. Like yung Seeds Kalahi, I went to Surigao and they were saying na, look, that we love that program, sir, but it's too rigid for us small municipalities because it's for 4th, 5th class municipalities. Seeds Kalahi is a community-driven fund for micro projects conceptualized by the community, initiated by the community, and executed by the community. There's no contractors to it. So it's a maximum of 20 million from my understanding. It can be a farm-to-market road. It can be a water system. Kayo lahat. It's for 4th class, 5th class, 6th class municipalities only. Now that money has been around for quite some time because it's a World Bank loan. Marami nagtatanong pag budget hearing, bakit lagi pa nandyan yan? Because apparently, there are rules or guidelines there that are quite stringent. But naintindihan ko kasi back-to-back siya sa loan and World Bank probably set those guidelines. Pero, listening to the end users na nung nasa Siargao ako, they were saying it's helpful but the counterparting is a bit rigid.
May disconnect.
Oo. So sabi nila baka you can help fix that program to make it more responsive. Yun. Isa yun. And I'm sure the other programs as I go along, kasi what I'm doing right now is sitting per office, them explaining what their programs are, what their mandates are, and then we'll probably do a sit-down on each programs na naman, trying to figure out saan tayo makakakat ng gestation period. That's the streamlining they're talking. Now, personally, in Valenzuela, you can ask this, we run a flat organization. Napansin ko dito, nagugulat sila na just to set up a meeting with me, pwede palang kausap lang secretary tapos bibigyan kita ng meeting, or you can walk here, let's do a stand-up meeting. Kasi kung hindi, matatambakan ka eh. I think what Secretary Tulfo is saying, the red tape is too much and the rigidity is too much, if I can put it in context and I can be wrong. Na parang yung konteksto ang napaka-structured at rigid to a point that ang haba. I'll give you an example pa dito. There's an emerging issue on 4Ps or listahanan. Meaning, listahanan 1, which is the database for your information, happened 2010. 2013. Listahanan 2, 2 years later, 2015. Or thereabouts. And then listahanan 3, 2010, 2015. Please fact check me on the dates. Basta alam ko, I'm sure may 2015.
Yes.
And then sure ako 2015. I just don't know the inceptualization. Parang 2010 or 2013. Doon ako medyo nawala. And then 2019, COVID happened. So, anong nangyari pala, yung payout ngayon is based on the new listahanan list, but COVID nga happened, so people might have slipped back to poverty. And there's now a gap between the data that they're using, which is listahanan 2019, 2020, pero we know there was a supervening event. So, ang danger is there might be segments of households that were originally part of listahanan 2015 edition na mabubura sa 2019. And the payout is next month already. So, kanina tinatanong ko sila dun sa briefing, they were red flagging and said ko, anong solusyon nyo? There's a technical working group daw for them to talk about. I said ko, next month na yan eh. So, sabi nila si Secretary Tulfo was also trying to address it, kaya lang naunahan na ng pangyayari. It's not like he wasn't, he was really trying to get to fix it, kaya lang naunahan na ng pangyayari of, what happened to him. So parang ang ending ko kanina is, ano nga solusyon nyo? Magti-TWG pa sila. To clear everybody's schedule, aabutin ng matagal pa yun. Next month na yung cut-off. Decide ko, why don't we do this? I give you the marching order, have legal check na maybe para hindi ma-displace itong mga pamilya na to. We're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, 600,000 families who appeared in the second list but not on the third list.
For them, this is make or break. This isn't just a number, a statistic.
They go hungry. So, parang sabi ko na, can we check the legal definition? Kasi from my recollection, the law on listahanan never said naman listahanan 1, 2, and 3. They just said use listahanan. Of course, there was significant investments made to that new listahanan database. So, sabi ko sa nila, why don't we check the legal side? The legal girl was there. I'm giving you till this afternoon to tell me if we are violating any law. If we're not, I'd gladly go with you to COA and explain to them that this 2 billion that the government spent for the new listahanan ng 2019 will not go to waste. We'll just use it for the next payout period. But for now, para lang walang mahulog na pamilya sa kagutuman, baka pwedeng gamitin muna natin yung luma. Bakit hindi natapos yung validation? Kasi nga, the normal issues na the same enumerators were being used for other programs. So, hindi rin naman nila kasalanan. So, all we're saying is, breathing room lang. Napansin ko, for them to do that, there's so much formality entailed. A TWG among the USECs. After that, they will meet again. And next month na yun eh. So sabi ko, can we just keep this flat? The USECs there, and I told them, talk among yourselves, chit-chat, come back to me, tell me if there's a legal impediment, then let's go to COA. If wala na, maybe we can blast a memo saying that it's deferred. So, parang government has gotten too big that instead of government being big to use it for frontline services, it's the bureaucracy, the back end of it that got too big and got too rigid.
So yung nagmumukhang overarching theme dito, it's the rigidity of the department that's impeding it in
Becoming more responsive.
Yeah. Is this a cultural thing that you're changing now, or is this a systems thing, or is it both?
It's both.
Okay.
I guess, and I'm not saying kay Secretary Tulfo to, baka sa predecessor niya, and over the years, nagpatong-patong na yung kultura. Culture is not built overnight.
I'm sure this isn't down to one.
I can no longer keep on saying na it's the prior whoever, diba? I'm here, and I have to change it, and it starts with me. Departments, whether we like it or not, are secretary-centric. And if I show them that the organization can be flat, city halls can also be like that naman eh. But in Valenzuela, we have this culture that you need a decision, you come to the decision maker para we can make it snappier and make it more responsive. So that's what I'm trying to do now.
And I think that's din yung promise, that yung reaction ng mga tao when they found out that you were appointed to the DSWD. Kasi nga, it's been a while since we saw a local chief executive.
Apparently, I asked. Apparently, in fact, check me, I was told I was the first.
You seem to be the first. I have to double check also from previous decades back.
We had a doctor, a couple of doctors, I believe. We had a community organizer. We had an economist. We had a general. So there were a set of development people. And I think I'm the only one from the local government ranks. I'm not sure, but that's what they may nagbulong sa akin. In recent modern history siguro.
At least in the post-EDSA era, I suppose. I would think, right? So, actually, sir, ano tingin mo na advantage nun? Or do you see any disadvantage also from that perspective, that you have been in the trenches?
Ako, somebody asked me, what skill sets do I bring here? One, I am not a social worker. Two, I am not a community development graduate. But one thing I can tell you, after 9 years in the City Hall of Valenzuela, I'd like to think that I'm a manager and an administrator. And a manager and an administrator, ang skill set niya is getting things moving. And ramming your way through the bureaucracy, speeding things up, that's the skill set that I bring here. And one more thing, as a local chief executive, I always say this: nobody has a monopoly to the right answer. And one of the things I'll do here, and I've been doing for the past week, is bring those voices in the lower rung decision-making process of DSWD, the junior managers, to the big table. Bringing social workers to the table. I don't have to, di ba hindi naman sinabi porket DSWD kailan social worker yung hepe. Marami namang social worker dito with more stock knowledge and institutional knowledge, and he's been practicing on the ground.
I was gonna say, your answer implies
lean on them.
Lean
on them for their expertise, lean on them for their stock knowledge, lean on them for their institutional knowledge. But my goal here is to bring them to the table and try to traffic the ideas. So that's a skill set I bring. Pag local chief executive ka, kasi napansin ko pagka LCE ka, like a city hall, you really have to listen eh. Bea, and I'll say this, hindi naman ako nagpanggap na mahirap galing ako sa mahirap na pamilya. Pero kaya ko sabihin sa'yo na nakita ko na ang kahirapan first hand dahil naging mayor ako. Nakapunta na ako sa pinakasulok ng isang depressed area. Nakakita na ako ng problema tungkol sa urban na yung dating galing sa mga probinsya pumunta dito at na-stuck sa Metro Manila at naging mahirap na. Nakakita na ako ng mga manggagawa na nung lockdown hindi mapakain ng pamilya and slip back to poverty. Those are faces that I've seen in the 15 years. Kasi pati congressman naman, technically, you may not be an administrator but you also deal with the locality.
Yeah. And you're expected, of course.
So, ang point ko nga doon is, I will not pretend that I am a social worker. I will not pretend that I know all the right answers. But one thing for sure, there are people in DSWD who knows the right answers. I just have to shuffle it, traffic it, so that we get their ideas on the table.
Sort through it and elevate.
We provide the vision and let them naman fill in the blanks. Like what the president, like I said, the president provides the framework of what he wants. It's up for the cabinet members, I'd like to think, to fill in the blanks. To the same degree, it's up to me to provide the vision and direction for the department. It's up for the technical experts to fill in the blanks. One thing though that I want to add, there seems to be, and alam ko to ng LGO ko, there's a shortage of social workers in this country.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not one of those top-of-mind courses that you want. And whatever comes out of the education system is already cannibalized shared by LGUs, national NGAs, and also international organizations. One of the thrusts here is we have a GIP program, a government internship program. I want to shuffle it to a developmental outlook, meaning we're working on limiting our interns for dapat nasa field ka ng behavioral sciences, social work, or community dev. Why? We encourage you to intern, if ganun lang in scope, with us, and then we hire you in the end. It has to be an ecosystem. And right now, apparently, no offense to the other courses, but there are other departments who might want you as their intern.
Kumbaga, matching your education and your skill set with a future career.
Yes, and also looking for talents early on. Sooner or later, there's going to be a drain in technical expertise in that field. If we don't give them the right career pathing in this department, then we might one day wake up with kids wanting to be a social worker or a community development person or a child psychologist, behavioral sciences. So that's one project that I want to work on now, and I told them, look, I want to reshape our GIP program into a program that will encourage future generations to be wanting to, be part of the system, but as a social worker.
So you talk about vision, no? Kumbaga si President Marcos, when he was a candidate, yung vision, very broad strokes of vision, yung sama-sama tayong babangon ulit. It speaks of inclusiveness, right? Yeah. Inclusive growth. Clearly, the DSWD has a big role in that. But where do you see, like, anong specific na mga avenues na
Sorry, I'm cracking my hands. Bad habit.
Yeah, but where do you see the DSWD under your leadership in that bigger vision?
You know, I've been doing and I like it that you came on a Friday.
Yeah.
Kasi I've done a whole bunch of meetings. First things first. One, you have to make sure that when you do launch a program, you're targeting a universal. Okay. We don't want any more of those na may programa ka para sa kahirapan pero yung mahirap hindi napasok sa loob. Diba? Yan ang pintas lagi, na yung beneficiaryo hindi nasama. O yung maling beneficiaryo ang nasama. That goes to database management again. But ako kasi, this is the proposition, and when months from now, you come back and I'll give you the details kasi wala ano. Poverty, and so many economists have said this, is an intergenerational or a long game. Yeah. We all want to fight poverty. Tama yun. And I'm not going to surrender. But to fight poverty, economists always have said that there are one component that you need, investment in human capital. Father Ben Nebres, the other day, dropped the same note to me. And sabi niya, to invest in human capital, you need two things. One, education. Two, health. A literate, competent, healthy workforce population equates to a ticket out of poverty. Sabi niya, you can generate jobs. Paano pagka yung tao na dinala mo doon hindi naman nakatapos, so hindi siya qualified pa rin? Or paano pag dinala mo yung tao na yun pero may sakit siya dahil may TB siya? So hindi pa rin niya makukuha yun. So stuck pa rin siya sa poverty. So sabi niya, there are building blocks. Education, healthcare equals to good human capital, human resource investment yan. And then human resource investment leads to, later on when the jobs are there, you can fit them in. So where do I fall in that? No? Two things. Number one, healthcare includes feeding people.
Yes.
Ako sabi ko, we fight poverty but we win small battles. Labanan natin ang kagutuman ngayon. When I say labanan natin kagutuman ngayon, it's the lower lying fruit. I spoke to Professor Mapa, Yusek Mapa of PSA. I had a 4-hour, 3 hours meeting with him because we're crafting an anti-hunger program.
Okay.
But we want to know first, what is hungry?
Okay.
Definition of hungry changes, ha?
Yeah.
Hindi naman changes, is iba-iba tayo.
Sure.
Case in point, the SWS hunger survey that comes out is self-rated.
Yes. Yeah.
But the government data crunchers have a different mode of defining it. Ang kanila is, does the average growth of your salary equates to the growth of the prices of goods and services, of food? Because if it does not, then you're food poor.
Yeah.
He explained to me the concept of food poor. Food poor is in the hierarchy of needs. Siya yung sa pagkain pa lamang, hindi na sapat ang kanyang kinikita para makabili ng pagkain. Ano yung inputs na yon? FNRI apparently has 8 baskets with different price points from 89 pesos to 120 pesos. Doon pa lang hindi niya na mabili yun. Imagine mo, 89 pesos for a family per head, per meal. Hindi niya mabili yun. So definitely food poor siya. Tayo kasi we have this bad habit of talking about poor pero hindi natin sila sinesegmentize. So, ang una natin lower lying fruit, apparently, we have a population na tawag natin food poor sila. Sa pagkain at pagkain lamang, hindi na enough. Survival is not enough. There's 1.5 to 2 million, 1.5 to 1.8 million households na ganyan. Doable if you think of it. Times 5 mo ang 1.5. That's just 5 million, 6 million, roughly 5 million plus. It's not a staggering number. Yes, marami.
Yeah.
Pero I think wala dapat na Pilipino, pamilyang Pilipino na natutulog sa gabi na alam mo, gutom siya. So, we attack the food poor first. Making sure na lahat tayo may nakakain na tama. Then, we attack the poor. When I say attack, hindi ko sila hahabulin, but attack that problem.
Yeah.
The poor naman is a bigger segment. Yan naman yun sa hierarchy of needs nila. Nakakabili sila ng pagkain, pero hindi na nila kaya ibang inputs pa, like clothing and shelter. Yeah. Then the line, then the non-poor. Yeah. And then there's another hidden segment there. The hidden segment there is what they call the near poor, used to call the near poor or the transient poor. These people are no longer covered by most of our programs. Kasi ang definition ng 4Ps is only for the poor.
Yeah.
Now, the near poor, yan yung nasa boundary line.
Yeah.
Kung ito yung poverty line, nandito sila.
Yeah.
They call it transient kasi one single shock will bring them down.
Yeah.
A shock can be a lockdown. A shock can be inflation prices. So, going back to inclusivity, how can we say we want to include everybody when there are 1.5 to 1.8 million Filipino households who are not eating right? Diba? If we want to be a middle-income country, it has to be inclusive. And ang basic earmark natin dapat dyan is nakakakain ba sila? Yeah. Then the next battle is fighting poverty. Yeah. So we're going to fight poverty by winning the battle on hunger. That's the first thing. And in order to do that, first we have to identify who the hungry is. Yeah. How many are they? Yeah. Where are they? Yeah. And then we do the intervention. Yeah. The intervention I had in mind, if you probably heard it, is the digital food stamps. Yeah. Sa States kasi food stamps manual. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to propose a digital food stamp wherein, yun nga, using the FNRI baskets of calorie intake on carbs, blah, blah, blah. We talk to the grocers, diba? Negotiate economies of scale with them, and then give these Filipinos who are food poor those food cards. You go to a grocery, brings back the dignity, diba? Na parang empowers you to be able to choose what you want within that food category. So, Bea, I had that idea. I think you've heard me say it, but apparently, I don't even have to change the wheel. I spoke to the World Food Program yesterday, and they piloted this already, including the card, in their program in Odette last year, 2 years ago.
Okay.
They ran it for 6 months, I think, and they gave those people cards, food cards, that's loaded with the protein intakes, the caloric intakes, and they were doing it in community markets. May POS pa. I even have the video. So, sabi nga ng WFP, that vision of yours is something that we've done. There's a working template for it.
Yeah.
So we just have to scaling it up. And that's why we want talking to you, because there seems to be a meeting of the minds on fighting hunger. The UN country representative was here this morning, Gustavo Gonzalez. He had the same notion that part of stability, security, national security, is food stability. It's talking about people who are not hungry. Diba? So parang sabi niya, definitely we are with you in that, because fighting hunger is a form of national security. And moving further, in this time, number one, so yung anti-campaign natin that we're planning to launch to fight hunger is, number one, meant to once and for all put food on the table while we're fighting poverty. Hindi man kita maiaahon sa kahirapan ngayon, pero sisiguraduhin ko na may pantawid tayo sa pamamagitan ng pagkain sa hapag. That's doable, I think. Two, apparently it's not just a social problem, but it's also solving a potential security problem. A hungry stomach doesn't know any law. But at the end of the day, if you have food on the table, then lesser peace and order issues. Three, it's also the best anti-inflation mechanism there is to protect the poorest of the poor. The food hungry are the poorest of the poor. Mas mahirap pa sila sa mahirap kasi hindi nga sila makabili ng pagkain na lang eh. And pang-apat, can you imagine this, if we get the system up and running with those digital food stamps? It's a rough idea, ha? Footnote, disclaimer, we're running the figures pa. But I cannot sit here and pretend that I don't have these ideas. We can start talking to agriculture producers na maliliit. Di ba may mga kadiwa na ngayon? And that's what they did in Odette. Community markets with POS. The World Food Program provided the POS. So now we can...
cutting out the middleman.
Yes. Especially for far-flung areas where these big grocers do not have a presence in. So it's addressing multi-pronged problems now. We will, if this program flies, we will definitely be one of the biggest food buyers. And if government is one of the biggest food buyers, then we should buy from our local producers. Two, this program will hopefully will provide food security, inadvertently providing a more stable domestic environment. Three, it's going to be inclusive. Diba? The one thing that I've been talking to data managers, I'm talking to SWS this afternoon. Kasi nga, I want to make sure that all programs here are data-driven. My favorite mayor ko is Mayor Bloomberg. He once said, "In God we trust, everybody else bring your data." And I've been telling them that here. Kasi yan yung mga trip ko ng mayor ko, like ko sinasabi yan, na pag one day, it has to be data-driven. And all programs here must be measured by clear performance indexes or indicators so that we don't do wasteful spending. Kasi, ang theory ko dyan, we only have so much limited resource, it can be wasteful spending, di ba? And last but not the least, sabi ko nga, these programs must have clear graduation mechanisms. We cannot saddle the government with more dole-outs kasi we don't want to keep on inheriting, passing on to the next generation, one dole-out program over the other. And the beauty with DSWD is we have those sustainable livelihood programs that we can easily tap into that food program of ours. Now, maybe we provide you the food cards for a year. Have to talk to nutrition experts first, because we don't want to release them, then they slip back to hungry again. And then we'll give you your livelihood package later on. And last but not the least, it's also digitalizing things. Ease of doing social welfare. Takes away the inhumane way of getting food boxes, ganyan. It empowers you to be able to go to a grocery shop just like everybody else and to choose from the shelves that there are, to be in an air-conditioned environment rather than falling in line. It's a program that I kind of want to really put a lot of effort in, and I've been putting a lot of time talking to data experts, talking to, I'm on my way to talking to nutrition experts, talking to social workers, because again, in this age where we're trying to push for the Philippines to be a higher middle income country, wouldn't it be nice to say that walang gutom sa Pilipinas?
The way I see it nga, sir, parang yung DSWD, it's really about creating the space, the capacity to dream for a lot of Filipinos. Because like you said nga, parang you
but the immediate is the capacity to bridge, to protect them from shocks like high prices, lockdowns, a natural disaster. Shield them from that, and at the same time, provide them the dream that we can get out of this together. Pero for now, maybe we can just win small battles that we should have won years ago.
So yung DSWD, huge burden, obviously, huge pressure on you, but it also brings you closest to the people. My question, political na to, sir. Kasi yun nga, you're a close ally of the president, close ally of the vice president. The DSWD handles with literal gut issues. And of course, you come from a very huge political clan. Are you conscious about, like, is this work being seen as political? When I say political, I mean partisan politics. Syempre, yun na yung umbrella term ng mga tao.
But that's why nga, sabi ko, the catchment has to be clear. When I say hungry, dapat lahat. Lahat ng gutom. That's why we need to define hunger first. Kasi when programs are targeting a universal and you actually hit the universal, then you can't be accused of politicizing it. Kasi lahat naman kayo eh. You know, for instance, they know, kasi the way PSA, si Professor Mapa, si Yusek Mapa, specializes, when he was in the academy, he specializes in poverty and hunger policy. Sabi nga niya, our data here is mathematically driven. We get the rate of inflation over the years, we supersede it with the rate of increase in salaries and wages, and we look at the inflation, he calls it the inflation of the poor, na mas tinatamaan sila. Then we can determine which households, ilang household yan. So sasabihin niya, for instance, in our case nga, 1.5 million to 1.8 million. Pero wala naman siya pang mga mukha nun eh. Alam lang niya yung numero. Pero how do we find them? Sabi niya, sir, you can now put fixed criterias. For instance, obviously, the prevalence of that will be higher in 6th class, 5th class, 4th class municipality. After that, provinces with the probably 10 highest incidence of poverty, pockets of poverty in urban areas. So, bakit? Doon naman sa mga pockets of poverty or high incidence of poverty, may mga hindi naman sumuporta sa last election sa administrasyon na to. But if you make the criteria all-encompassing, then you can't be accused of politicizing it. That's why nga, again, data.
We go back to data.
Yes, para when you come back, talk to me, bakit itong probinsya in-exclude nyo? Di ba? I can tell you, kasi wala siya doon sa top 10.
There's clear numbers to guide
clear parameters, clear lines, who's included and who's not included.
Sir, final question, because you mentioned na rin, for me to come back to you in a few months, how are we to assess and rate you by your own standards?
This is what I want to do, man.
How are we supposed to assess and rate you, siguro, let's say, a year into office?
Here's what I promise you. When every program has been canned properly, vetted properly, and the financing of it is already been identified, I myself will do the road show. I will call you guys here. You have a colleague Ryan's covering our beat. We plan to do more media briefings to inform the public. At doon palang i-define na namin. Kasi part of the problem na pansin ko was nung sa social amelioration, it wasn't clear sino yung target. Hindi natin pinaliwanag. Pinaliwanag na para mahirap. Pero ngayon ko lang, di ba, alam mo ba, Bea, marami na may alam na maraming strata pa ang kahirapan. So dapat malinaw ka agad sino, ano yung programa, at ano yung success indicator. Halimbawa, iyan. The self-rated hunger rate ng SWS is very different from how PSA computes it. But, the way Dr. Mapa was telling me, he was saying, look for the trends. If you can show them that the SWS hunger, for instance, hunger percentage is going down, then you can be rated probably that it's denting it. So, parang ang point ko lang is, we talk muna, parang sa basketball, we tell you the rules of the game in advance, para pagtapos, you can rate us based on success indicators. I'll go back to my local experience. We did Galing Pook. In my time, the group did 6 Galing Pook awardees. And in Galing Pook, they're very, very clear with success indicators. Dapat early on. Klaro na yun. So I want you guys to rate the programs, not me, but the department's programs. Kasi this is not me. This is the department's effort. Based on success indicators that we will agree on when the programs are launched.
And make clear.
Who, how many, and what are the success indicators.
And of course, the timeline.
Timeline kasi is also important. That's why nga I'm hurrying things up here. Tama ka doon. But ang akin lang doon, ang disclaimer ko ngayon is na-realize ko, it's not like City Hall wherein the sanggunian is there or, di ba? But yes, definitely timeline. Ang point ko lang dito, I have to lower my expectation in the sense na kung 30 days doon, baka dito kailan 60 days. Di ba? Parang it's a bigger operation that will require other agencies buy-in, other agencies validation and vetting. Kasi like this anti-hunger program, if we are to launch it, we have to let NEDA vet it properly also and tell us if we're looking at it the right way. Nobody, at the end of the day, no department owns a monopoly to the right answers.
Thank you again for your time. Sir, I know I stole your lunch break.
No, it's okay, it's okay.
Today. We look forward to seeing you and assessing
Yes.
your programs by the own standards that you place.
Not my own standards, but by mutually agreed on standards by experts out there and by us. So, diba? You can critique naman yung standard na yan, hindi naman tama. But it has to be clear-cut off the bat kung ano ba yung batayan at sukatan.
Thank you again for your time, sir. Thank you for watching. Keep it on Rappler.